Welcome to the Straight Path Podcast, where we discuss all things financial planning. I'm Dan Cook, certified financial planner at Straight Path Wealth Management, and I'm joined today by fellow advisor Ken Welch. Ken, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
I want to discuss something right off the bat. Has anyone broke your basketball high score?
I assume you're referring to my Papa Shot and not my high school basketball career.
This is correct. For anyone that doesn't know, Ken is a local legend at his own house. He has a basketball hoop downstairs, and apparently he broke a record that will stand the test of time. So no one's broke it yet.
No, I must say, though, that I did break my own record.
Wow.
Yeah, that was earlier this week on Tuesday. So 30 seconds, 3 balls with one of these, arcade-style basketball games. And I had 65 points in 30 seconds, which that's probably a made basket about every 1.5 seconds. And I think I only missed like 3.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's insane.
I'm glad you asked me about that and not my high school basketball career, because I was kind of that like 6th, 7th man. And I think I had about 15 to 20 points a season. So
I didn't even know you played high school basketball.
Yep. It was the height. I was a center. So it's kind of like a 4 or 5 kind of guy.
4 or 5. Okay.
Yeah. So then I was more of a defensive specialist.
Were you as tall as you are now back then?
Yeah.
Wow. How tall are you?
6'4.5".
How
Usually
tall is
round
the
up to
hoop
6'5".
that you got the high score on?
Oh, that's a great question. It's probably 5 feet, 6 feet. I don't know. It's like it's mounted. It's mounted on just a normal wall, and you got to have enough room to kind of get a good arc on the ball. So.
Okay. Well, our topic today is career shifting. Shifting out of that topic, we're going to be talking about shifting careers. It's something both of us have experience with, and kind of changing into the financial advisor career. We'll talk about how that experience benefits us, some of the difficulties of doing so, what we went through as far as the thought process when we were looking to make that change, and then give some advice to anyone that might be looking to make the change as well. So, what is your past experience from a career standpoint? What was it that you did prior Straight Path, before that, and what really made you change your mind to become an advisor?
Yeah. So for me as an advisor, this is kind of career 3.0. So I've kind of moved through a few different phases. So I started off as a CPA, worked at a large kind of regional firm, and I was an auditor. So got to interact with a lot of different kinds of businesses. I specialized primarily in healthcare and manufacturing. But that was, I kind of considered that after leaving college, that was sort of a continuance of my education, right? And so gave me a really good kind of financial acumen, a good kind of business knowledge, and a good base. But being an auditor, you're basically doing compliance, and you're just making sure that people are doing things the right way, and kind of checking boxes. And so for me, I didn't feel a lot of value add. So I didn't have a lot of personal fulfillment in that. Given that background, I was able to transition into a CFO role at a small managed healthcare program called the Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. And there, I was able to kind of do, work with, executive leadership there to kind of build the program, put some solid kind of financial processes in place, all while serving seniors, which was really good and really fulfilling for me. But after about 5 years of that, I got to a point where I was at a bit of a crossroads where I was trying to decide, hey, is healthcare and kind of this back office administration, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And again, was kind of feeling like a need for a change. And so that's where I talked to Matt Borson here at Straight Path, just as a friend, just to kind of try to understand the industry and what it's like. And after talking to him, I kind of realized I think it was a great way for me to kind of capitalize on what I like, which is sort of that relationship building piece, and also like experience a lot of fulfillment from a standpoint of being able to help people through what's often kind of something that people don't understand. It's a little abstract, can be a little scary for people. So it's been good for me. I've really enjoyed it.
And that's a big change, right? You go from a place that's probably more background work behind the scenes. You're not really having those personal connections and relationships that you have now. And now you're jumping full force into everyone's life.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably one of the most important aspects. I mean, obviously money's not everything, but we are planning around everything they have from a money standpoint and personal standpoint and building those relationships up. So it's very different.
Yeah. And I think people put an incredible amount of trust in their financial advisor because people share things with you and I that they don't share with maybe anybody but their spouse.
Maybe not even their spouse.
Maybe not even their spouse.
And that comes out in a lot of meetings.
Yes, it does. Sometimes it's a bit of marital counseling. But yeah, it's, I consider it an honor to know people and kind of help them walk through some of these situations in their life. Sometimes big milestones, sometimes really difficult things, but it's very fulfilling.
Yeah. And I'll go a little bit on my background too, and then we'll kind of go into how these experiences really have shaped what we do as an advisor too. So going out of college, I was much more investment focused. I always thought, and maybe you had the same thought, that financial advisors were very salesy. And I think there's still that notion out there in the industry that financial advisors are salespeople. And honestly, there probably are some financial advisors that do take the sales role. You have to be careful of that. But I never really saw it as the relationship side of things. And I think that is because I never really talked with an advisor directly. I wasn't applying for those jobs. I wasn't looking for that. Very much investment focused. So went in, actually got a sales job with Hershey for a little bit. So candy, very big change. Moved to Dallas, was with JP Morgan for a little while there, came back to Michigan. That's when I got into the advisor role with Lake Michigan Credit Union. And then I landed up at Straight Path. And there really is such a difference in each one of those jobs. But that experience brings a lot to the table too. How we talk, how we discuss, how we think, even with the advisor. So from your past experience, what do you think has been some of the best experience that you brought forward that's really changed the way that you do things as an advisor?
That's a good question. From my past experience, I would say just the understanding and kind of knowledge of business. I work with a lot of small business owners. And so I think, in our comprehensive model where we're also providing tax advice and we're helping people optimize, their returns and deductions and kind of overall situation, I'm able to talk a little bit, with an understanding, I think, of what it's like to kind of operate a business and also be able to talk with them just about, some of the struggles and some of the things I think that are common to business owners and business leadership.
And I would say my experience just comes from the changes that I made, moving around so many times and everything. And, I've made the mistakes financially that I don't want my clients to make. And I know that. And a lot of times it comes with like younger clients that we're talking to, maybe giving them some direction. They may not be the best fit as far as like ongoing client. And they may be. It just kind of depends on their situation, but just knowing what to do, how to talk about those difficult conversations, because I'm sure you've been there too with certain things. We have experience on that, and we have the business experience and the personal experience to really bring that out. What was the biggest learning curve for you? We talked about the experience, that's a benefit, but it's hard kind of making the shifts around in your career and making a decision, from yourself and from your family too. So.
Yeah, I think, boy, the hardest thing for me was just, was fear, honestly. So like going from being a CPA where you have a very set track, like as long as you're, meeting your goals, you have these sort of milestones and promotions, that you get along the way. You have a set salary, which is nice. Same, with the CFO role, kind of same thing. And so for me, I've got 4 kids and a wife who, stays home with them. And so this was a big risk for me. And I think that was something that held me back from doing this for a long time. But eventually, I kind of, and part of this too is my own like faith. Like I trusted God with like this next step, right? Like just take the next step of doing this. And it's been super rewarding. And it's been great. And I think I was afraid also of the sales side of things, which you talked about, because I didn't want to feel like a used car salesman or somebody who's like pushing investment products. And that's another reason that I landed here at Straight Path, because I think with our fiduciary responsibility, we do things the right way and for the right reason. But also when I go into a new client meeting or a prospect meeting, I go in there just with the mindset of, I want to help this person. And sometimes it's saying, hey, sorry, we don't do that, or we can't help you with that. But a lot of times it's listening, hearing their story and helping them kind of sort through things. And so that the sales, I think, for me, has turned more into helping people, and that's been really rewarding and helps build that trust.
And that's what we have to start with, is just helping them. No, there isn't any sales tactic that we're using here. We are trying to actually emotionally connect with you, build that relationship, and understand you and your life. Because it's important to do that. And I think us and anyone else out there that might be interested in the career, it takes the good advisors to beat out those bad ones, the salesy, get rid of that, because it's very still high on a bad taste in people's mouth from the past of what financial advisors did. And a lot of people might not look into what they do now. We provide a lot of value to people because of that, because we're not trying to sell you something. We're trying to solve the issues you have and really connect on a deeper level. To anyone out there that might be looking to make a career shift and jump into the advisor world, we'll start with that first, and then we'll kind of talk about just the career shift in general. What advice would you give them? Don't mean to put you on the spot.
No. That's a really good question. Don't be afraid to try it. Don't be afraid. I think with my career progression too, this is now kind of like my third sort of different type of career, if you will. And I feel like now I finally kind of like hit my stride. And so, if I was going to talk to younger me, what I would say is do this earlier. Like, for me, I waited till I was 34 and this it's worked out well, but I wish I would have done it 5 years earlier, and so don't be afraid to try it. If it's not a good fit, I think it's a great learning experience, and you take these experiences and you apply them to whatever's next. And there's a lot of things you can do. If you don't want to be a full kind of client facing advisor, there's a lot of things within the industry that you can do if you're financially minded, whether that's investment analysis or focusing really on the planning side. There's a lot of different roles, and I think it's a great career, and I would highly recommend it.
And there's not a time frame, right? You don't have a specific time frame on, when you find your right path. So to anyone that is like shifting careers, whether in your 20s, 30s, 40s, it's okay to make the change. And there is a lot of fear behind it. And I would say when you're younger, there's probably less risk involved, right? You don't have as much money. You're still building yourself up. Whereas when you're older, you might have a lot more foundation built into it, where it might be a lot scarier to jump into something new, but still do it. Right? I mean, that's what life's all about, is taking those risks. And without risk, there's no reward. We know that from investing.
That's right.
The more risk you take, the more reward there is. There's obviously an extent to the risk you should take. But it is very rewarding career. And I would almost say it's up there with some of the other professionals like doctors, lawyers, things like that, that really help people and try to connect on that relationship level. So anything else that you have for us today?
I don't think so. Well, thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for being on the show. That's all we have for today. So thank you for watching. Remember, when you plan better, you invest better, you get to live better. See you next time on the Straight Path Podcast.